Hey everyone, welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by critiquing current players. I am one of tonight's two co-hosts because our third is still on work vacation, Derek Kubicek, and today we are going to be looking at episode 6 of season 47 of Survivor, Feel the FOMO. I am joined tonight, obviously, by the other co-host, Ryan Stacy, as our friend Josh Wessler is still doing business in China.
Yep.
He'll be back next week. That said, Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Speaking of Josh, I heard he took 2 hidden immunity idols to China, but then he got voted out of the business conference he's at with both of them in his pocket. So it's just really embarrassing for Josh.
Yes, and he knows nothing of banana etiquette.
Yeah, not at all.
Now, he flew out of China to do that particular bit. I think that was in Nicaragua or wherever.
Samoa. That one was in
Samoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he flew to Samoa, forgot banana etiquette, went back to China, lost his idols, voted out, and now he's somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Josh Wessler and James Clement, the same person.
Yes. And anyone who's seen Josh Wessler would know that he isn't strong enough to dig a grave.
What is this? The
Rude.
Roasting Josh Power Hour.
You know what? If he wants to defend himself,
maybe he should show up to the podcast.
He should show up to the podcast. The important consultants are here.
Oh, damn. Derek coming for Josh tonight. That's usually my job, I feel like.
In fairness, when you don't show up, we say the same thing about you.
It's true.
You can't defend yourself. The best ability is availability.
Yes. So, Josh, maybe don't go on important work trips that is important for your livelihood. Maybe show up for the podcast.
Yeah, we are more important to you than this
being
business.
able to pay rent.
Yeah. Than your next paycheck. We are off the rails
already.
But honestly, because we're a little off the rails already, last week we completely forgot, given that we knew we were coming into Mergatory. That is typically when we do our best and worst of the pre-merge. And so we have a little bit of housekeeping. We're usually organized. We apologize. So
Josh, maybe he's the one who keeps us on track.
Maybe Josh, he's the even keel force, like the leveler. So there's my compliment for Josh. But we need to get some best and worst of the pre-merge out of the way. So do we want to start with Josh? Because I think he sent some stuff over.
So we can start with Josh. But yeah, we like to do this before the pre-merge of every season. Just check in on who our best and worst players were, and then check in with our winner picks.
Yeah. Do we want to read like his best and worst from last week as well? Or?
You know what? Yeah, we can do that too. Josh wasn't here. He did get to watch all of his Survivor stuff. So I will just go ahead and read those off really quick. From last week, best player of the episode was Caroline. His worst was Rome. He predicted Tiana was going to be the one going home in this episode, and he predicted Rome cannot win the game.
All right.
We'll see if that is true once we get into the spoiler section. But yes, going into the merge, because this really was, I mean, they called it a merge story, but this really was just a merge episode, I think.
Well, they've never called it a mergatory. That's what kind of the community has dubbed it.
But like that's what they're basically referring to it as. Without saying it a merge story, they're calling it a merge story, but this really was just a merge episode.
This is the unification.
So for Josh, best player of the pre-merge was Teeny with an honorable mention to Sam. Worst player of the pre-merge, Rome, self-explanatory. Teeny is Josh's current winner pick, and he says he would keep Teeny as his winner pick. Derek, why don't you go next?
Yeah. So for we shared everything last week already, so I'll just pick right up at best of the pre-merge. I'm going to go with Gabe. And the reason I'm going with Gabe is because I think Tuku as a tribe has a chance to come into the merge the most unified. I mean, we all see what Lavo is doing. You know, we're not even talking about this week. We're talking about last week.
We're still talking about last week.
Lavo was a complete mess. And then even over on Gata, we just had a massive blindside that will put a shim in between kind of the two factions that were going there. And there are a couple people who could be free agents. Tuku's the only one that might come in as a power 4 or a power 5, depending on how this all breaks out. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Gabe because he did an excellent job singling out Sue as someone who is a great, reliable ally. And bringing in Caroline as another one of like the broken winged castaways, and bringing them under his wing, and everything has gone exactly as planned so far. He may have had a pretty rocky start, dropping the box down the side of the cliff, but everything he's done since then, nobody has had a chance to really see him, and no one who does see him is all that worried about him that actually can do something about it. So I'm going with Gabe.
For me, slam dunk Genevieve. And for me, it's really not even all that close. I think it's Genevieve easy, playing it cool, playing it calm, playing it collected, taking the moves that she needs to take, and then seemingly willing to cut people that she doesn't need, or turn on people when it doesn't help her out. So yeah, going into this episode, Genevieve's my best player of the pre-merge. Who do you got for worst?
Rome.
I also have Rome.
With a lot of O's.
Yep. And then finally, let's check in with our winner picks. You have Gabe. I have Teeny.
Yeah.
How you feeling about Gabe?
I haven't seen enough that I would swap. I think picking someone who's going in on a power 4 or a power 5 situation, we've seen it enough. I'm not going to swap. If I were to swap, it would be to Teeny, but I'm not going to, and I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So Gabe is still my number one.
Yeah, I have Teeny. Would I switch to Genevieve? I'm not sure if I would switch, but those are definitely my two. I still have a lot of confidence in Teeny. I just think Genevieve has played better, but I think both of them have a real shot to take this thing.
I think of the contestants on Lavo, Genevieve has overtaken Teeny at this point. For me, like, who is most likely to win from Lavo if it's going to be Lavo? I think the answer is far and away Genevieve. Okay. And that's not meant to be an indictment on Teeny's game.
Genevieve's played really well.
Genevieve is invisible in episode 1, but are we getting kind of like a Tina episode 1 edit?
We could be.
Who knows?
She did get confessional episode 1.
Well, I mean, in 90-minute episodes, you're bound to get hopefully at least one. So not completely, completely purple, but one of the most purple in episode 1.
Yes.
I would respect the edit so much.
But now that business is taken care of, let's move into the episode proper.
Yeah, so spoiler alert.
Amazing episode. Loved the episode.
Yes.
We'll get into more of that shortly, but yeah, this is an absolute banger episode.
Yes. So yeah, without saying anything else, spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1.
Rome is fallen, folks.
Oh my goodness.
And boy, oh boy, did we know it was going to happen ahead of time. Not since I think we're like Roger Sexton back in Amazon we had like a merge episode where it was so obvious that so-and-so was going on. Like, they weren't even trying to hide it.
So what was funny for me, I'm going back to episode 1, season 47. John Lovett said something. There's the kind of the primary vote, and then there's the easy vote, and then the not easy vote.
Yep.
And what are the players going to try to do to try and figure out which one is best for their game, the easy vote or the not easy vote? I don't remember exactly how he phrased it. He turns the phrase a little better than I do. He wrote speeches for Obama. What do you want from me? Everyone was like, hey, this is easy. And they took it.
Yep.
This is, when I talk about Byzantine game theory, this is kind of the best I think that can be hoped for in the current Survivor model. With Shot in the Dark at play, there's always going to be the need for a backup vote. It's an interesting way to micro coconut chop the castaways and sow a little bit of discord. We got maybe teased that a little bit on the next time on Survivor. But this was consensus. Everyone who put a vote on Andy knew that it was Rome and wanted it to be Rome.
Everyone was in on this plan except Rome, and it was glorious, and I loved it. It was great for everyone's game.
Yes.
Even though Rome couldn't win, he was such a wild card that he could absolutely bring other people down with him. And if that's going to be your first move of the merge, that's great. You know, if you're a little further along and you need someone like that to have a chance to win, it's a little different story. But this is our first vote. I've always said you just need to survive this thing. And if you can take out such a wild card and everyone is okay with this, perfect. Take it.
Yeah, they took out the Venus, right? Yeah. That's just a very recent example. You can go back through Survivor and you can always, like, it's the Abby Maria.
Yeah, there's usually somebody.
Yeah, there's a bomb to defuse. This season it was Rome. I didn't realize that Rome had nuclear technology, but it was time to defuse him. And I'm glad that you said if you need to keep someone like this around to have a chance to win, if you know that that's you need to be aware of it. Obviously, we're going to have 2 players tonight who can no longer win the game, and sending Rome home was bad for them. But to the credit of the Survivor edit, of the people remaining, I had a really hard time picking my who can't wins.
Yep. We picked, we since we're into this phase of the game, we picked 2 now.
Yep.
But I feel very not confident in these 2 in terms of, like, I think they could end up winning.
Yeah.
Like, I think they could hypothetically turn it around. They're not Rome. They can do the work. They can put the work in and change things up. This is just where they're at right now.
And that's what I think I loved most about this episode is coming out of it, there is a pathway for every single person to win this game. I don't think anyone has lost out of principle anymore.
Yeah. And
that's shocking because I've changed my mind on that.
It's wild. It's exciting. It really is.
Josh, what do you think about tonight's episode?
Honestly, I think Josh would love it because he's always been probably the most anti this person cannot win the game. I think he's generally been the most like anyone can turn it around. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
So I think he would be if I'm going to be Josh, I'd be like, I told you so kind of thing.
Well, and maybe a key qualifier for Josh then, because we're playing Josh a little bit. This is kind of fun. We've really come into our own where some people just can't pretend to be other people.
Yep.
I don't know that anybody's actual personality is going to be the barrier that they are unable to like cross.
Yep.
They are. Everyone has been able to get out of their own way enough to this point. I'll just name Andy as someone who's had to get out of his way the most so far, but he's worked his way back.
Yep.
And he has not necessarily lost the game in the same way that Rome had.
Yep. He's got breathing room.
Yes, a little bit of breathing room, but you know what? Hope is the greatest motivator.
Yep.
And give someone with no hope a little hope, and you'd be surprised what they can accomplish.
Yeah. So I will not write Andy off completely, even if he is one of you who I don't think can win the game, to spoil that. But we'll get into more of that later.
I will keep all of my stuff buried.
Should we jump into the episode proper?
Yes, we should jump in now.
So, Gata gets back from their Blind Savanica, and all of them do a pretty good job of trying to do damage control with each other. There's definitely a lot of lost trust, but they're all saying the right things. Which brings us to I'm going to just call this the merge. Like, they kind of try and do like, oh, what's going to happen? You got to earn the merge. Like, no, everyone is living on the beach together. The challenge is going to be an individual immunity challenge. This is just a merge.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't get the feast proper, but that's happened before as well. This is just a merge.
So this is a merge with extra semantics.
Yep.
I'm not even going to say a merge with extra steps. If you think back to the classic merge, literally all they're missing is the buffs.
Yep.
Because Rome is not going to make the jury, but only one person won immunity. They all came together. They lived together. Not everybody got a feast. So like, okay, cool. So half the people got a feast, and they don't have buffs until after the first vote. Yeah, this is just a merge. It's a merge with fewer steps, extra steps. I don't even know what's going on.
I like the way you said it with a merge with semantics.
Yeah,
because we've definitely had seasons where not everyone got the feast, and we've had going back to season 1 for a long time. The first person voted out the merge didn't make the jury. Gretchen Cordy.
Yes.
So this was just a merge.
Famously, Andrew Savage.
Yep.
He first one voted out at the merge, didn't make the jury.
Yep. The entire first 5 seasons, first 4 seasons, and then Thailand was weird because they did the late merge. So this is just a merge.
This is just a merge. Drop the 4 and add the 7.
Drop the Tory and add the nothing. It's just a merge.
Yeah.
So we get to the merge, and they're told there's an advantage for the immunity challenge on the beach. Go. And everybody runs around for about 1 minute before sitting down and socializing instead, and I love this.
We didn't even talk about this at the top of the episode. The players absolutely gave the finger to production twice this episode.
And it was so good.
Who listens to the Castaway Consultants?
All of them listen to the Castaway Consultants. That's my fan fiction that I'm writing right here. Everyone who made the merge is a huge Castaway Consultants fan because they listen to us, clearly. They just kind of ignored, once the adrenaline wore off a little bit, they ignored the strategy garbage that the production puts in, and they focused on the social game.
Yes.
And I love it.
We're going to talk about the amulet later, too. I'm just super...
Very proud of all of them.
Dude, I loved this episode so much.
Get wrecked, Jeff.
But everyone looks for about a minute, and we get one funny cutscene where Genevieve and Sam are like, oh, what's that buoy? Probably nothing. That's probably nothing. Well, I mean... Maybe go look. But also at the same time, maybe they're still sussing each other out.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be too gung-ho to go high-step it out into the shallows to look at a buoy marking the out of bounds.
Worked great. It seemed like everyone was just chill, and they all just like talked and got to know each other.
Yeah. The people did what the people were going to do.
Yep.
And I am so proud of them. Ignore production. You don't have to play into their hands. Sometimes you can just say no. The only thing that could have been better is if nobody found it.
That would have been so funny. Like, Jeff, we just socialized.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
We just sat down and got to know each other. Wait, really? Nobody looked for the advantage? My heart is breaking.
Get wrecked, Jeff.
No, Jeff, you don't understand. It's never been about the advantages, Mr. Jeffrey Probst.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. If you have to win using the advantages, you're doing something wrong.
Yes.
That is to give someone on the bottom a chance to get back into it. That's basically what it is. So before everyone came over, Sue was cleaning up her idol because it still had paint on it. And so when everybody gets to the water well, they find red paint. And everybody's like, what the heck is this? And they end up finding the pot full of paint that Sue had got her idol out of. So both Carolyn and Tiana kind of realize Sue's got something.
Yeah.
And Carolyn's going to be the one to go to Sue and be like, don't worry, I got you. I know you have the idol. I got you. I don't love that for Caroline. I would have not said anything and use that to your advantage. Because now, what if Sue blindsides you because you know?
The other side of the coin is Sue might blindside you because you might know. Mm-hmm. If you're close with Sue and you're Caroline, I think I do like the move because the finding of the broken lantern and the red paint and the murder crime scene was very, very public.
Yes.
Sue right now is looking, she probably feels vulnerable, probably feels like she needs an ally. And Caroline can say, I can do that for you. You have to get the proper read because if this is Rome might try to vote you out. But if it's Sue, I think this is a good move. And because of everything that I've seen from Sue is that she is a very loyal Alliance member. She has ambitions. She's not someone who's just going to roll over and not win the game. But for the time being, these games are aligned. I think Caroline made the right call. Time will tell if I'm right, and time will tell if you're right. I can see this either way. I'm going to put my faith in Caroline, and I like the move.
I think it'll work out fine. It's just not... I probably wouldn't do it. And again, it depends on how the read on the situation.
Well, and to the other side, Tiana saw it too. Yep. Tiana not as close with Sue or Caroline. Close enough with them to understand, like, hey, we kind of need to be Tuku right now. And maybe she told people and we didn't see that in the edit. But for what we've seen right now, she's just gone ahead and filed that away into the Rolodex of need to know and nice to know.
Yep.
So she can pull that out whenever she would like, if she ever feels like she's in danger or she doesn't want to be a target or she wants to build some trust. Like, hey, I know where this is.
I'm going to throw a tease out into my who's going next. I think that this storyline right here is what's going to play into my who's going next.
This isn't the storyline I have in my who's going next, but that is one of them that I factored into it. So I think that both people who are aware of the possible guilt, I think they played this right. I think Caroline, better friends with Sue, talks to her. Tiana, I'm just going to keep this to myself, maybe play dumb. Like, I don't remember, or I don't quite get it.
Genevieve's going to be the one to find the advantage. She very, reluctantly gets in the water to go get the advantage.
Yeah, I think who's one of the more prominent Survivor tweeters said, Genevieve is really not beating the Parvati allegations with how nonchalantly and uncaringly she finds this advantage.
Yeah, I think Mike Bloom tweeted that.
Maybe it might have been Mike Bloom. I just laughed at that tweet because I can absolutely see Parvati being annoyed at the prospect of getting in the water for an out-of-bounds buoy and not the advantage.
It reminded me of Mike White, too. I'll just give Genevieve a glass of wine, and it's total Mike White.
Wow, look at all these people running around doing all these things. I think I'm just going to sip my wine.
Actually look.
I can see it.
So Kyle and Rome are going to have a nice talk, and Kyle probably a little too trusting. Just probably says a little too much. But yeah, he talks like he wants Sam out next, and Rome brings out like, oh yeah, how is Tiana? She's a big threat, and Kyle's like, yeah, I guess, sure.
Well, and by the way, I don't mind Kyle having this conversation with Rome. Kyle needs lifelines right now. I don't think that he was at the bottom of his tribe. I do think Tiana, if Tuku had gone, I think Tiana was going next. We'll never have closure on that. But Kyle is looking for allies, and you need to give some to get some, which means you need to take chances.
Yep.
He said Sam. What's wrong with Sam? Sam's not on Lavo. Sam's not on Tuku. He's on Gata. Gata has been reasonably successful. It's not Andy, who he can beat.
Like, you're right, but also we just got here, and nobody's got immunity yet.
But if Rome wants to have the conversation,
sure.
It's okay for Kyle to have this conversation, I think. What's going to happen next, I think, proves that Kyle was okay to have this conversation.
I think Kyle gave too much, at least from what we were shown.
He may have, but obviously he had a good read on, or he's got a good social game, like a certain level of earnestness, where it's like, if you try to twist my words, I'm going to be able to untangle those with deadly precision.
But yeah, so Sam and Tiana are threats, and Caroline and Sue are power duos. Basically what Rome is going to go tell those people that Kyle said about them. Like, hey, Kyle's gunning for you four. So he tells everything to everyone. Tiana is close to Kyle. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, her spidey senses were tingling.
So Tiana's going to go talk to Sol and Andy about this. Like, this is what Rome told me. It's really weird. And so Sol's going to be like, yeah, don't trust Rome. I'm going to go talk to Kyle and see what I can suss out. And basically, they all figure out that Rome is full of crap.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't know that Sol should be so happy to like toss Rome under as a Lavo, but Lavo is destroyed and Sol is a free agent.
Yeah, I can't blame Sol at all for wanting to get rid of Rome.
But his delivery, again, if you want to talk about someone who just oozes credibility, I think I don't know how good Sol would be at maybe spinning a lie, but man, oh man, can he deliver the truth with some weight.
He is in sales.
I'm just saying the way he was like, oh hey, so I see you've met Rome.
Yeah.
Like, Rome is stirring up crap at camp.
Yep.
Oh, so I see you've met Rome. Like just the way he delivered that was flawless.
So Kyle realizes that Rome is just turning everything he said against him. So Kyle leads a charge, basically tells everyone in camp he wants Rome out.
Essentially open forum. There's like 7 people around that water well. Let's talk about this for a second because he's going to say, hey guys, I'm gunning for Rome because I don't like what he's doing. Genevieve is there.
Yep. But, and you know, Kyle also doesn't have a vote, which makes things even more interesting.
Not everybody knows that.
I think at this point, everybody knows that.
We'll assume that's ambiguous knowledge.
So Kyle just tells everybody, like, I want Rome out. That guy sucks. He's lying. Here's what he said. I kind of like this for Kyle just because it's just an info dump of, hey, this guy sucks and he's just spreading tons of lies. And he's heard from the people who kind of feel the same way. So, yeah, normally I don't really like this, but just throwing one person onto the bus like that before the challenge has some weight to it.
And you want to talk about using your personality to your advantage, right? This is one of those key things where I don't think anyone's personality, I mean, Rome's, but we're talking about the end of the episode. Everyone left, their personality isn't going to be necessarily what gets in their own way. Kyle going open forum and saying, everybody knows me, as his words, not mine, this dumbass who can only tell the truth.
Yep.
One subtle thing I like is that Sue, who does have a little bit of a lit stick of dynamite in her hand for Kyle because Kyle has written her name down. Having Sue in a group setting like this where he's talking about what happened with what he said about Tiana and Caroline and Sue, if you try to have that conversation one-on-one with Sue, it might not go so well and she might not be receptive. But if he's coming out and saying, look, everything that he has said, I have said, has been garbage.
Yeah, I think this is the opportunity, a rare time to do the open forum way.
To do the more open forum. And I again, making comparisons. Comparison is the death of joy. I understand that. But Kyle being earnest like this reminds me a little bit of Keith.
Yep.
And he just needs to be himself and be likable, and he will have a chance to win this game, in my opinion.
Yep.
And if that's how you're going to play, that's how you're going to play. And you just have to lean into it.
So we're going to go to the challenge. Genevieve, her advantage, she gets to skip the first round because the other 12, they're going to get divided into 2 teams of 6. They're going to compete for the merge feast. And then those 6 get to compete in individual immunity. Genevieve gets to join them for the feast and the challenge. So Sam, Kyle, Sue, Teeny, Sierra, and Rachel win the feast. Kyle ends up winning immunity. So no vote, but he gets immunity. Good for Kyle.
In a challenge that Ryan would be miserable at.
Terrible at this one. I love the immunity necklace, though.
Oh, it's really cool. And Kyle's got a tattoo of a bat?
Yeah, it's weird.
That's really cool, dude.
Kyle, winner at it.
I'm here for it.
So, on the reward group, they all agree Rome's going home.
Yes.
They do want a second target just in case. And Sue's going to throw out Andy's name. And Sue and Sierra, they end up agreeing, like, if it's got to be Andy, it's got to be Andy. Which is great, because going back to last season, the Green Tribe were so reluctant to vote out one of their own that they became huge targets.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, who is the guy who's like the figurehead? He ended up going home fairly early. Tim,
yep.
Thank you.
But yeah, Mariah was the one who went home there, and they were just so not willing to turn on each other that it at least temporarily hurt the tribe. Mariah and Tim went out very quickly.
Yeah, it became sus.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you willing to give us a name? Why aren't you willing to do anything?
So in this situation, if someone in a group setting like this throws out an ally as a backup vote, you have to agree. You just have to. I know it sucks and it's not great for your game, but you can't not agree to that.
Yeah. And I also think, depending on the person, I mean, again, we're kind of fed a little bit something where Andy's like, did you know I was the backup vote? I have no idea where this is going to go. But I also think Andy is receptive enough to strategy talk where someone else threw out your name. You were never the primary target.
Yep.
What are we supposed to do in that moment? Because all of a sudden, Gata could be in big trouble.
Yep.
If we look too unified, we become the target.
Yep. Yep, exactly. And I don't know how, you're not always going to be able to explain that to the person, but that's the attitude you have to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's risky for sure, but, Survivor's a risky game sometimes.
Yeah, and it is one reason I don't love Shot in the Dark, but it is one thing that keeps the game on its toes a little bit. I will admit that, even if I don't love it.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine with Shot in the Dark. Andy and Caroline and eventually Teeny, they're all going to talk, and they all decide, we're just going to play the amulets. Everyone knows about these things. This is not an advantage. We're incentivized to turn on each other because of them. Let's get rid of them. And they announced we're just going to play these tonight.
Yes.
And they end up deciding to play them on Teeny, which makes sense because Teeny was the one who lost their vote through that thing. So a little Teeny gave, now she gets.
Yes.
They played on Teeny. And, we could just talk about this right now. I love this.
Oh my gosh.
I love this.
Again, who listens to the Castaway Consultants?
The three of them.
When this happened with Austin and Jemiah and I can't even remember Kelly.
Yep.
A couple seasons ago. Just play them immediately. Just burn them. Tell everyone about them and burn them immediately.
This is the Brad Culpepper. Throw it in the fire.
Throw it in the fire.
Just get rid of them.
And because we're talking about it now, the fact that Jeff is like, oh, my heart is breaking. No, Jeff, you should be fascinated. This is great television.
Yep.
When people say...
he was being sarcastic.
Well, but I get it. Wow, you stand up for Jeff. I'm just saying the words he said. No. Absolutely not. This is what should happen. This is good gameplay.
It's just so funny because he's going to let Rome explain why this is so bad. So, we're jumping around a little bit here, but he lets Rome take his spot at Tribal Council and explain to everybody why this is so bad. Rome does a great job at explaining why playing the advantages now and getting rid of them is a good thing to do.
You can't say that Rome doesn't understand the game.
Game theory, I think he gets.
Yeah, game theory. He's a commentator.
Yep.
I think that he would be really good podcasting.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll start a Survivor podcast.
Yeah, he'll start a Survivor podcast. Yep. He'll probably have more followers than us because, he played. Would. But it was still really interesting that everyone decided we're just going to... I washed myself clean of this nonsense.
Yep. Been saying it for years. It's so nice to see it happen on a group setting scale.
And also for the group to accept it.
Yep.
Wow, that was pretty sus of them to, play it like that instead of trying to use it. Everyone's like, no, they didn't want to go. They weren't given a choice.
This is great gameplay.
Respect. All right, now let's play.
Get wrecked, Jeff. So, Rome wanted Kyle out, but can't do that now. So he wants to try to turn the tables on Soul, tries to frame it as Soul being mean to him, and nobody buys this. And Rome is running around to everybody, it's Soul, and everybody's like, yeah, definitely Soul. Definitely not Rome.
Let me play you a song on the world's smallest violin.
So, we're going to go to Tribal Council, and Jeff lets Rome sit in his place and explain a nice swan song for Rome. Mm-hmm. It is pretty cool. Good for him. So, they're going to play the amulet on Teeny. Rome wants to try, he believes Soul's going home, he wants to try and do the wonky vote strategy and cause a little chaos. He throws one vote on Sam. Again, in a large group like this is not a move I hate. It helps to be on the right side of the numbers. But I am a fan of the wonky vote.
What's fascinating is because Sam got a vote, Andy might not be as upset with him that he was a backup vote because Sam also got a vote.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that this was intended. It's just
happy accident.
Hey, Sam, did you know I was the backup vote? Dude, I got a vote. I clearly I didn't know everything that was going on here.
Uh-huh.
That's enough plausible deniability.
Uh-huh. Which makes me not believe that Andy's going to go for the Gata.
I don't think so either, and I don't know that that's how it was sold. It's just whenever you're the backup vote in modern Survivor, we always see that as kind of being a sticking point going forward.
As it should be.
It should be a sticking point in your mind. It shouldn't necessarily be a sticking point for your feet.
Yep.
Because you got to keep moving. You got to stay agile, and you got to be able to work with
But remember that.
Give credit to Soul and Rome for working together for a vote when they needed to.
And he can forgive, but he should not forget.
Absolutely.
So Sue and Soul are both going to put backup votes on Andy. Everyone else votes for Rome. 9 votes Rome, 2 votes Andy, 1 vote Sam. LOL.
Great, glorious downfall. The timing was great.
Yep.
If Rome would have made it, I think, too deep into the post-merge, I would have lost enjoyment in watching him tank other people's games.
This was, I think, the perfect amount of Rome.
Yes, I agree. It was some pre-merge shenanigans.
Yep, he was a great villain in the pre-merge and got his comeuppance, and it was glorious.
You know what it is? It's we always talk about the defusing the bomb. They defused the bomb with 1 second left on the season. The season collectively defused the Rome bomb with 1 second left.
And they all work together to do it. The power of teamwork and friendship. It was great.
We'll do it with the power of friendship.
So I think We don't have Twitter up right now. We didn't do the poll because Josh isn't here. But I would imagine 100% of everyone agreed, unless Rome voted, this is the right move.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a couple stragglers, but I would say that this would be a 90% plus that the right person went home.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't an indictment on Rome as a person. It's just based on the edit we see and the players remaining and the options available.
Yep.
He played himself. And isn't it great that almost everybody in the pre-merge has had a moment where they crossed the line, they went too far, they played themselves. Was there a single person who went home in the pre-merge who didn't deserve it?
No, they all played themselves.
Yeah. This was entirely self-inflicted.
Yep. John was probably the closest to being it, but
yes, yeah. John was put in the most unrealistic of the situations.
But again, he ended up taking himself.
But he played himself. He pushed Annika's name too hard.
Yep. All right, let's get into best and worst player of the episode. Derek, who do you have for best player?
I don't feel great about this, but I want to really use this award as an opportunity to give it to Kyle. Because, one, he has no vote. Not his fault, but he wins immunity, guaranteeing him a further spot in the game. He makes really good connections with Sol and Andy. He uses his earnestness to get him out of the hole that Rome tried to bury him in, and he did it by being himself. And I think because of how genuine and authentic he came across, he built bridges with everybody in a way. I think he even repaired maybe some of the damage that was done to the bridge with Sue and Caroline to at least a certain extent. Tuku obviously stayed together. I think that Kyle is in a decent position to go far and is maybe like under the radar, camoed enough not to be a huge target early on. He just needs to be likable and have a few more moves to his name, because I think the Rome one, he can probably put his name on that.
Yeah, I think Kyle was definitely the most responsible. Without voting for him, was the most responsible for the Rome boot.
And if you think about New Era, he's already done as much as Gabler did.
Yeah, true.
So I'm giving it to Kyle.
I ended up wanting to focus on, because I thought everyone did great here. I wanted to focus on the people who played the amulet, because that was such an awesome move. I love it. So I wanted to give it to one of those three. Andy ended up being the backup votes, and I didn't love that Caroline told Sue that she knows about the idol. Neither of those are huge deals by any means, but that just kind of left Teeny by default. So I'm going to give my best to Teeny.
I like how your award is basically a middle finger to production.
Yes.
Or not to production, but to production interference.
Yes, I love it.
I respect it. I'm not going to fight you too hard on it.
And then I'm not going to give out a worst player, because I only give out a worst player if they played badly, and I thought everyone was a net positive at the very least. We can't give it to Rome, because we don't ever give it to the person who's eliminated, so I have no worst player for this episode.
I have one, and again, I'm in the Ryan boat here. Everybody played well, I think.
Yeah, so you don't have to give out one.
I'm going to. I think that from what we heard this episode, the biggest negative going forward might be on Sam. Part of this is partially contained in the next time on Survivor, where we're looking at the men. Everyone sees Sam as a really big target, and I also don't love that, well, on reward, Sam said, if it has to be Andy, it has to be Andy. And then back at camp, if it has to be Andy, it has to be Andy. I like that for him, but that is the kind of thing that might come back to bite him. I was turning over every rock to find someone here.
You cannot give one out, because I think Sam did what he had to do. I'm going to implore you to not do this, because I think that was what Sam had to do.
You know, there is a...
Because if he does do it, that would make him a bad player. It's much worse if he doesn't say those things.
Man.
We don't have to give out one.
Josh is going to hate this, but I think I will rescind it, because
Good.
I was turning over every rock. And I do think he had to do what he had to do. That was like the one thing I was like, what happened this episode that could possibly blow up in somebody's face? And like you could say, you know, the murder scene for Sue. But I don't think that Sue handled that situation poorly.
I mean, there are good moves that can blow up in your face all the time. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to make moves. Survivor's a hard game.
Yeah. So I'll rescind it.
Good.
And I just want to commend everybody left. Everyone played so well, except for Rome.
All right, now with Rome gone, because we both predicted Rome was going next, and we were spot on.
Dude, we called our shot on that one.
It was you know, after the episode was over, we were talking about that, we just high-fived, because we were just so on point. Now it gets a little trickier. Derek, who's going next?
I'm going to say that what I just said might blow up will blow up.
Okay.
I think there's a strong chance that a man does go home. I think that if one does go home, the Sierra needing to separate herself from Sam will come to fruition now, because Rome, that was an easy vote. He's causing problems. Byzantine game theory, remove the X factor. Now Sierra has a lot to prove that she is not playing that strongly with Sam and is not playing for Sam. So if a guy is going to get targeted this coming episode, I think it's going to be Sam, and I'm going to say that he goes next as a result.
All right, I went a different approach. I wanted to go to a different storyline, and that is the Tuku tribe. What are they? Tuku. They came in as 5. I think they're the most fractured. I wanted to stay away from Gata because they were mentioned like, oh, I'm going to burn Gata down. But I think what Andy said, something along those lines.
Tuku is definitely not more fractured than Lavo.
Well, hang on. So starting with Gata, they were mentioned in next time on Survivor, so I wanted to stay away from them. Lava with Rome Gata, I think they're going to be fine, to be honest. I think they've managed to show things back up. I do think they're less fractured than Tuku now.
Soul, Genevieve, and Teeny could absolutely be a trio.
I'm going to stand by what I just said. Tuku is the most fractured of the 3, even though we're in the merge now, it doesn't matter as much. And I think what is going to happen is Tiana's going to go home, because I think she's going to push for Sue because of the idol. Like, she's going to get suspicious and try and target Sue. Could Sue be the actual target and play the idol, knock Tiana out? Yes. Could it just all go backwards onto Tiana and she gets knocked out instead? Yes. But Tiana has the potential to burn bridges here with Sue and Caroline, and she already has with Gabe, even though she hasn't really realized it. The only person who might go to bat to save her is Kyle, and I don't know if he'll have the ability to save her.
The poll, yeah.
So I'm going to land on Tiana as the person going next.
I depending on how the episode goes, I can absolutely see this as the case.
Yeah. All right. Now, this is going to get interesting, because now let's get into who can't win the game. We're in the merge proper, so now that we pick 2 people, there are 2 people who can't win this game, and it's tough.
It is. I honestly, usually, I love playing this game, and I like sticking forks in people as well. Spoiler, no new forks, Rome went home, so Andy and Tiana are still my 2 with forks, but, who can't win? It's usually so much fun. I don't like having to put names here, because I don't feel good about any of these names.
Yeah, I think everyone here can probably change things up to win.
Yes.
But the 2 people right now who I think have the worst chance to win are your forks, Andy and Tiana. They're my bottom 2. I do think Andy can pull it around. Tiana I have less confidence in. But they're my bottom 2. I think if any 2 people can't win the game, it's Andy and Tiana.
I agree, and I'll put Tiana below Andy. If we were still picking 1 and Rome went home, Tiana would be my new one.
I think I'm with you.
But if I have to pick 2, which them's the rules of the game. We've been playing it for a while. Those are the 2, but that is with the giant qualifier that, especially Andy, he has somehow created some breath.
Yep.
I don't know how he did it, but Andy, if you're listening, good job, man.
Yeah, he's created some breath. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's Breath of the Wild. You get it?
Stupid. That's funny.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we're in agreement there. The last thing we got to do is talk about our Survivor pool. We all survived again. Josh ended up sending his in. I believe he picked Sue. Last week I had Genevieve, and you had
Soul.
So this week, Derek, who are you picking in the Survivor pool?
What's hard is anyone who's been keeping track at home knows that I have only picked the men. I don't have many of the men remaining to pick. I'm not going to say that it didn't go into my decision. There was some waiting there, but I landed on Teeny as my pick for this week. I think that, I don't know, Teeny feels more and more like Elaine.
Okay.
From 39, and that puts a potential elimination in the middle of the merge somewhere. So safe enough for me to pick now until I understand where these lines are drawn,
sure.
But risky enough to where I'm not picking a potential final tribal council person that I might need to use in finale. So we'll see where that goes. I could be wrong. Teeny could very well win, and I'm burning the winner now.
Hopefully.
Oh, well, you've already burned Teeny, so...
Yeah, but I want Teeny to win, because that's my winner pick.
Oh, I mean, if Teeny wins, that's great.
Okay, so I wanted to stay away from Tuku, because I think they're going to implode here. And Gata also has the potential to implode. They're kind of I'm a little scared. So I wanted to stay away from those 2 and focus on Lavo, because I think they're going to be okay. Unfortunately for me, I picked 2 of the 3 already. Genevieve and Teeny, I picked both of them. So I'm just going to pick the other one, and I'm going to pick Soul.
All right. Here's one episode behind me.
Yep. So yeah, we'll keep sending those in. And yeah, no one has gone out yet. Nobody who's participating in this has gone out yet. So keep sending them in. Well, we'll give you a shout out when you lose and a nice honorable mention. And we'll see who wins this thing.
Yeah, just make sure you send them to us before 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Everyone has. That hasn't been a problem, but we cut it a little close.
Yep.
There was a close call.
But no, we're all okay. We're all okay.
Yes.
Everyone's good. We're all still hanging in there.
Thanks for playing.
It's fun. Derek, social media.
All right, I'm gonna put on my Josh voice for this one. Yeah, if you want to go visit us over on Threads or on Twitter at Castaway Pod, or if you want to interact with us on our website, or Derek, do you want to talk about Spotify over there? Yeah, well, please, on Spotify in the general comments, you can do your Survivor pool pick, or just leave a general comment about how you feel about the episode. Somebody utilized the space to recommend throat lozenges to me. So thank you for that recommendation. I have not exercised it yet, but it is on my shopping list. You know who you are.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Actually, you know what? I think that was on Twitter. Either way, when you interact, we read it, and I promise we love it.
Yes.
And if I missed a social media out there, I apologize. I said Twitter, I said Threads, I said Facebook.
We'll be on YouTube, but again, there'll be no video proper this week. It'll be an audio version.
Yep. If you haven't already, and many of you have, please go to Apple and leave a review there. If it's 5-star and appropriate, we will read it on the podcast. And then if you are active in the Reddit community, you guys are talking about us. Our name comes up when podcasts are mentioned. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else, Derek?
Honestly, I'm excited to see where the season goes because, as I've said twice already, I think anybody here could win. And that makes me super excited to see what happens next.
Especially because the lines haven't been drawn yet. It's just like, how is this going to break? It's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like we get another merge episode next week.
We are spoiled with this right now.
Spoiled with riches.
And what has been so far a very baseline season of Survivor, where they're kind of sticking it to production interference a little bit. I'm really digging what we have left.
I'm really digging this season. It's been great.
Especially because it started out, we were like, kind of a bunch of weirdos, but I like it.
And, the first episode was a bit of a bummer because John went home first.
Yes.
But, I think we bounced back and it's been fun.
Yeah, and by the way, one of the things I've been tracking is we said in our first episode, whatever the boot order is, reverse it.
Yep.
And so I want to look at that at the end of the season.
So what is it? The John TK Asia Final 3?
Yep.
John winning. That's in the Bizarro world. That's how it broke down.
Yes.
That would have been a fun Final 3.
But anyway, that's just something that I've been keeping track of for fun, for me.
All right. On that note, this has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.
Good night.